What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical average American here today to react and learn about Norwegian stereotypes. Fact or myth? You know, every nation around the world, including America and including Norway, has stereotypes about them, about the culture, about how the people act, and Norway is no exception. So today I'm quite interested in hearing about some of the Norwegian stereotypes that are common and whether there's any truth to it, whether it's all lies and myth or somewhere in between or, stuff like that. Should be quite entertaining. I think Americans in particular tend to have stereotypes about Norway that are, at least pretty positive, pretty good, like that Norway is wealthy, people are wealthy. One of the funny ones is that, like, Norwegians look like giant Vikings, like with big blonde hair and like super jacked and muscular, like Viking type. That's definitely another one. And just, stuff like that. Mostly like pretty lighthearted stuff. So let's take a look. What are Norwegian people really like? Figuring out whether stereotypes are mostly truth or mostly myth is a challenging task. For example, are all Nordic men tall, strong, and bearded? Right, the beards, the beards. Are Scandinavian women all blonde-haired and beautiful? Yes, that's another one. That, like, Scandinavian, Norwegian women are all, like, models. Like, just whenever you see, like, them in American media, Norwegians, they're always beautiful. Like, maybe it's the truth. Maybe it's just the truth. The same is true for the country itself. Is it as expensive to live in Norway as the rumors say? Does everyone live within a view of a fjord? Right. Let's try to unpack some of these. Stereotypes about Norway and Norwegians. Here are the most popular ones we've come across. Number 1, Norwegians are wealthy. Yes. Okay. Partly true, this website says. Partly true. That actually makes sense to me because I think it's pretty factual that, like, Norway has a very, very, very strong financial, like, economy, does very well, has oil, exports salmon, all sorts of things. Norway is definitely rich as a nation, but that definitely means, like, individuals have different net worths and financial circumstances, of course. So some people in Norway probably are wealthy. Some Norwegians are not, right? That just makes sense. Partly true. The sticker shock suffered by many tourists fuels this stereotype. Oh, so a lot of tourists visit Norway and see how everything, like, costs more money than America, for example, and then people assume, oh, all Norwegians must be, like, super rich or something. That's how that happens for sure. Surely, with such high prices, all Norwegians are wealthy. Are they? Perhaps it's no surprise that this stereotype exists given the size of Norway's oil fund. Yeah. It's like $1 trillion or something that I know of. Public tax records means that yearly listings of Norway's wealthiest people make news. But what about the average person? Exactly. What about the average Norwegian? Are they rich? Salaries in Norway are not as high as you may think, especially for senior management roles. What defines Norwegian salaries is a relatively high set of minimum wages and a relatively low differential between the lowest and highest earners. Well, that's a good thing, honestly. Like, the people earning the most in Norway don't earn so much more than the people earning less. Like in America, the people earning the most money are like, they have like 90% of all the money. Like 1% of people in America have like 90% of the money. And then 99% of the people under them share like 10% of the money. Something crazy like that. The poorest people in America are much, much too poor, where it's a big problem. And the richest people in America are so disproportionately rich that it is mind boggling, honestly. Salaries in Norway are not as high as you think. Oh, let's keep going. I don't need to read the same thing over again. This doesn't mean that all Norwegians are wealthy or are able to splash the cash, but it means there are less people below the poverty line. That is so great. I think that's a reason why Norway is so great. Honestly, this is a big reason for me, is because it is set up so that, unlike America, there's not all these people starving and living paycheck to paycheck and living in terrible living conditions or homeless. That doesn't exist. It should not exist in America, but it does. So I think that's why I feel so passionate about this. Also, because of the astonishing value of the oil fund, it's fair to say that Norway itself is wealthy. Yeah, exactly. Norway as a country is wealthy. The value of the wealth fund is, oh my gosh, hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, 11 trillion? Is that right? Could the oil fund be 11 trillion? Oh, 11 trillion kroner. That like means billions of dollars. Okay. I was like, $11 trillion. Norway's going to take over the world at this rate. Okay, like $11 billion, I think that is roughly equal to. Okay. 2, Norwegians are rude. You know, Americans tend to think maybe sometimes that Europeans are rude or standoffish compared to Americans, but Americans in general don't really view Norwegians specifically as rude, although I have heard that on some of the YouTube videos I've watched. I don't think that's a very common stereotype. Americans don't really think Norwegians in particular are rude, but sometimes we think that just about Europeans in general, I guess. True and false. True and false. Wow, okay. At first glance, locals can appear rude, or at best standoffish when visiting tourists. Well, I know that any rudeness is really just Norwegians trying to be respectful and like respect personal space, and basically to become a Norwegian's close friend takes a lot more effort, but then there's like a closer friendship, so it's a trade-off, I guess. But this is all about perception. For what can appear rude to a visitor is considered polite by locals. Exactly. Norwegians are just acting how Norwegians interpret is polite, whereas Americans get uncomfortable when you don't talk, when you give too much space. Americans just like to talk and be very expressive and friendly, but in other parts of the world, like Norway, that's not being respectful. That's not being nice. So it's just different culture. So yeah, I can see where Americans, when they visit Norway, probably think that people are being rude sometimes. I could see that happening. Norwegians value personal space. Yes, exactly. That's why neighbors barely utter more than a hi to each other. And the most packed buses are usually silent. Yeah, Americans don't care about being quiet. They don't think... Americans are not trying to be disrespectful, but we just don't tend to think of what each other are feeling. So I know that sounds rude, but it's just that Americans, it's just the culture. You basically just worry about yourself. So I definitely respect Norwegians for that. To a chatty American tourist, it's understandable why this can come across as rude. Yeah. Number 3, Norway is a happy country. This a stereotype? Yeah. I've always thought Norway ranks very highly in happiness. This is a good stereotype to have, I think. But it's only partly true, according to this. The Nordic countries, including Norway, regularly top the rankings of the World Happiness Report. Yeah. So that means the country is happy, right? Yeah, that's what I would think. The truth, of course, is more complex. Speaking to various people, it seems that a feeling of contentedness with life is a better description of what reports as happiness. Okay, so happiness is a little bit of an exaggeration. Most Norwegians feel content, pleased with life. But that doesn't mean everybody is super happy. That would be like asking a lot. This is just like an average. Norway has a high average happiness. Some people can be very, very happy. Some people are not happy, and it averages out pretty high compared to most nations. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. That's what that means, right? Factors include strong employment laws that favor employees. Yeah, oh my gosh. Workplace conditions and lack of employment benefits in America is a big cause of people being depressed and unhappy in life. Americans are unhappy with their jobs, and their work-life balance is terrible, especially compared to Norway. From some of the things I've learned, Norway has much better work-life balance. People are happier, bringing in cakes, getting to leave work earlier on Friday, getting time off. It's much better. Yeah, I totally agree. A strong work-life balance and generous paternity leave. Right, paternity, maternity leave. Yeah. But not everyone agrees that equals happiness. Huh. Some point towards the requirement to fall in line with societal norms. Oh, I just learned about this. The law of Yanti in Norway. That feeling of having to not stick out, having to fall in line and obey the norms. That's a Norwegian concept. Yeah. The dark winters and high cost of living. Oh, speaking of John Tolovan, I just accidentally opened up an article about it. Okay, that was weird. It's funny. I was just talking about that. What the heck? Oh, it's literally linked to this, John Tolovan. Okay. Anyway, dark winters and a high cost of living as factors that make Norway difficult. Yeah, as a foreigner, the dark winters, high costs, falling in line. Yeah, that would be very tough for Americans. Number 4, everyone is tall. Yes, this is definitely a Norwegian stereotype. That Norwegians are just gigantic. Vikings. Americans definitely think this, yes. Partly true. Oh man, not all Norwegians are like 6'5". Dang it. Both Norwegians and their North predecessors have a reputation for being tall. As we discussed in this article about the height of Norwegians, the average height of a Norwegian is taller than British or Americans, but not by much. Okay, so but Norwegians are taller, on average, than Americans, so that is true. There is truth to this. In 2019, average Norwegian was approximately 5'6", and the average Norwegian man was 5'9", or 179.7 centimeters. Okay. Huh. The average Norwegian woman was 5'4". Okay. Yeah, I guess I expected the average Norwegian to be like 6'3" or something, right? So I guess this is just a stereotype. All right. Number 5, Norwegians love to ski and hike. This is not a stereotype. This is just true. This is just Yeah, it says right there, true. This is just Norwegian culture. And I think it's great being active, going outside, enjoying nature, doing a sport. Skiing is definitely, like, if there's anything I've learned through my Norwegian YouTube adventures, Norwegians like to ski and hike and explore and be active and go outside and enjoy life. This is a great stereotype, and it's true. The Norwegian love of the outdoors is certainly a very visible fact. On the weekends, the hiking and skiing trails in the mountains are busier than seeing city centers. Man, this might be more popular than I even realized. I have met few Norwegians that don't like to ski or hike, but they are definitely the exception. So most Norwegians ski or hike or do something, right? That being said, it's hard to find exact figures on participation numbers. Yeah, I'd like to see some stats on this, some statistics, to see what percent of the Norwegian population skis in particular. Okay, one organization that does give us an idea is the Norwegian Trekking Association. Okay. More than 26,000 people are members of the DNT. That's about 5% of Norway's population. That alone shows the popularity of outdoor life. Yeah, that's just the amount of Norwegians who are part of this organization that maintains cabins, hiking, skiing trail. That's not even everyone who participates in skiing and outdoors. So yeah, if 5% of the Norwegian population is part of this organization, that is definitely proof that a much bigger part of the population participates in skiing, hiking, and stuff. Yeah. Yep, true. Number 6. Everyone lives in a cabin by a fjord. Okay, I never thought that this was true. I guess if you do know a little about Norway, if you just saw a little bit about the stuff I've seen, you could think that most Norwegians have a cabin or live by a lake or fjord or mountain. But I never thought that was everyone. And plus, don't Norwegians just visit their cabins? They as a little vacation, a little getaway. Norwegians don't necessarily live out in the cabin by a fjord. That's maybe a little romantic, a little exaggerated. False! While huge numbers of Norwegians do own a cabin, they are almost always a second home. Yeah, second home. That's because the majority of Norwegians live in cities. Right. That's so amazing to me. Because if you own a second home or a cabin or a cottage in America, you are seen as wealthy. You are seen as very, very privileged. Like, that is very uncommon in America. Very uncommon. Blows my mind that a lot of Norwegians get to enjoy that. That's very cool. But there are more lakes and stuff in Norway. Maybe that has to do with it too. And the population is smaller. Of the 5.5 million people in Norway, more than 1 million live in the urban area. And immediately around the capital city of Oslo, 1 million people live in and around Oslo. 1 out of 5 Norwegians live around or in Oslo. I did not know that. That is a staggering amount of people. And the rest live like all around Norway. Wow. So Oslo and the surrounding area is by far the most densely populated in Norway. Wow. I guess that makes sense. It is a very, very famous city in Norway. It makes sense. The reason is the availability of jobs. Oh. When you live in a larger city, services such as hospitals and airports are closer. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons to live in the city. This makes sense. By 2050, forecasts suggest that more than 2/3 of the world's population will live in urban areas. Oh, so the world in general is just trending towards living by cities, basically. Norwegians say ofte a lot? Ofte. I have not heard this. What does ofte mean? What does that mean? Do Norwegians say it a lot? Well, according to this, no, it's false. What? If you've spent any time among Norwegian American communities, you'll have come across the phrase ofte. Ofte. I just don't know what this means. It almost seems to serve as a badge of honor for people with Norwegian heritage? Really? Yet in Norway, the expression is considered quite old-fashioned and not used. Oh, there's a lot of Norwegian Americans saying ofte? And they think that it makes them like more tied to their Norwegian ancestry, their Norwegian ties? But it's not even used in Norway. This is kind of weird. This is very specific. This is very interesting. When it is, it's with a much more defined meaning than in the US. For example, perhaps the most common use is to comfort a child when they bumped their knee. Kind of like saying aw or there. Ofta. Ofta is for comforting a child. Okay. Okay. Bear this in mind before sporting your Ufta t-shirt. Most Norwegians will simply scratch their heads. Okay. I would scratch my head too, but now I kind of understand. Yeah. You don't say Ufta very much. You just say it when you're comforting someone. Okay. Good to know. This is not a stereotype I knew about, but I don't know any Norwegian Americans also. You can always see the northern lights. No, 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 no. But you know what? This is a good one. This is a good one. A lot of Americans don't know how you have to be specifically positioned to see the northern lights. You have to be in a specific area at a specific time of year to see the northern lights. Most Americans don't know that. So this might be a stereotype. Yeah. Yeah, actually. Wow. I know that this isn't true, but that's me. But false! This one definitely is not true. Despite the northern lights photography on social media, the lights are not a daily occurrence, especially in the South. Right, right. Yeah, most Americans don't know how the northern lights work. And it really, I mean, the northern lights is really probably one of the things Norway is most famous for to Americans. This is something all Americans are just blown away by, including me. Like, this is otherworldly. This might as well be aliens to me. Like, this would be incredible. Man, Northern Lights. In fact, it's possible for someone to spend their entire life in Oslo without seeing them once. So you have to be north. I certainly didn't see them during the 2 years I was there. Even in Trondheim, maybe once a year. Okay. Yeah, that's not very common, is it? The further north you are, the more likely you are to see the lights. Yeah, there's like places in Norway that are like tourist destinations, just specifically because they give you a good shot at seeing the northern lights, right? Darkness and clear skies are essential. September, October, and February, March are prime viewing times. Okay, that's good to know. The keys to the northern lights are dark night, no clouds, sun activity in the days preceding your trip, and patience. Right. Tromsø is one of the best places. Right, Tromsø. Wow, this is a good one. This is actually a good stereotype. A lot of Americans need to learn that, because they could travel all the way to Norway and not know that you have to be a little intentional if you're planning to see the northern lights. Yeah. Oh, I think that's it. What did we miss? Are there any other stereotypes? I don't know. That was pretty good. Like, this was a good list, honestly. It had northern lights. I mean, there was stuff here I'd never heard before, but maybe this is true for some Americans near Norwegian Americans. Ufta. Everyone lives in a cabin, right? Norwegians love to ski. That's just true. Everyone is tall. Yes, Americans definitely think Norwegians are gigantic. Norway is happy, right? Yep. Norwegians are rude. Most Americans don't actually think that. But if Americans visited Norway, they might think that and have a misunderstanding, basically. Norwegians are wealthy. Yeah, some Americans might think that. So yeah, I think this was a great list. And I also like that it tried to clear up the misconceptions. Like, it tried to say what was fact and what's myth and what has some truth, because with stereotypes, you can kind of fall into that trap of them not having any truth to them. So I liked that this cleared up a lot of the stuff too. I enjoyed this. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Norway, Norwegian culture, stuff about Norway I've never seen or learned, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.